In many ways, it felt like what we've been watching for a while from Man City. At times against Real Madrid, they're 2-1 up. You're thinking, this is a little bit like the City we've seen in the last few seasons. But then the problems, the much-discussed problems of this season, then come back to haunt them.
Yeah, listen, Real Madrid were the better team. Man City were good on the night, but Real Madrid could have been outside. I thought Ederson, even though he makes the 2 mistakes at the end, I think he had a good game. He made some big saves in it. I don't know what Man City were thinking doing that. I don't know why you wind up someone like Vinicius Jr. putting...
He doesn't need winding up, really,
He doesn't need it. He's a top player. That just motivates him even more. I thought Bellingham was outstanding. We're seeing some of the shots here, and that's probably how Pep felt at the end. And he was good on the night, though, Haaland. I thought he played ever so well, led the line well, but... Don Carlo, as we call him, Ancelotti, always produces, and his team are fantastic. You've got to think going forward, brilliant. But City, it's their own worst nightmare, because I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, Ederson, there's a few minutes to go. Just keep the ball. And everyone wants to do them fancy kicks, and I know every goalie can make a mistake, and they go make it 2-2. And then in the end, Kovacic loses it, and Rico Lewis can go make a tackle. Then he makes his decision, Ederson. Stay on the line, because the defender's coming across. As soon as you come out like that, it's easier for Vinicius and then Jude Bellingham. And now it's tough. I don't probably give Man City any chance to go to the Bernabeu. It's going to be a struggle because they have to come out.
Yeah.
And then what Real Madrid on the counter-attack.
They'll be rubbing their hands, won't they?
Problems. And especially now with Akanji out for 10 weeks, he was playing ever so well against Vinicius. So, yeah, it's disappointing for Man City. They still have to believe, though. They still got players that can cause problems with Haaland and that. And the problem is they have a lot of injuries, Real Madrid. They had a lot of injuries. They had no Rudiger, no Militao, no David Alaba. So City will be disappointed that they threw that away in the midweek.
No surprise, Merce, they're 7-1 on Real Madrid to progress through to the knockout stages. There's too many players for City, though, who are not in the kind of form where they can go there and turn this around, is there?
I said in midweek, you watch Man City, and it isn't always a nightmare, do you know what I mean? They have good play. Like, the old Man City that we were used to watch 2-3 years ago in last season, the game, they would expand the game to 95, 96 minutes. They'd be brilliant. They're 45 minutes now, 36 minutes, 45 minutes, might even be 80 minutes. You know, I've seen them 3-0 up against Feyenoord, draw 3-3. I mean, they're cruising against Man United with 5 minutes to go. It's a dodgy back pass. They lose 2-1. I mean, last week when it goes 1-1 against Arsenal, there's only going to be one winner, and that was Man City. And then Foden passes the ball 30 seconds later. You know, against Real Madrid, they go 2-1 up against, let's be honest, an unbelievable Real Madrid team going forward. Defensively, not great. It's not as bad. I just think it's getting an ageing team. I don't think they can put in 90-minute performances. There was a time, one of the greatest players to play in the Premier League, in Kevin De Bruyne. But I'm watching the game the other night, and Real Madrid break in numbers, and they get in the box, and the ball gets cleared, and it ends up at Kevin De Bruyne's feet in the middle of the park, and there's not a soul near him. You're like, you're not meant to be there. You're meant to be back.
And Sue, this has really been their Achilles heel this season. And Guardiola talked about it midweek after the game, the way they concede goals quickly and in succession. It's been the Achilles heel this season.
And he actually said that. He said too many times this season that's actually happened to us. We've let leads slip, we've conceded too late on, which is very unlike them, because we're used to Manchester City just controlling games, aren't we? And the fact that this season that's not been the case, and I think there's lots of factors, isn't there? Obviously the Rodri factor, which we talk about every week, but also defensively having those injuries, and I think probably you look at that midfield area and you go, well, there's so much quality in there, technical ability, but do they really have the legs and the energy and the athleticism and maybe the presence? And that's something that, you know, I think when we see Manchester City this season, we're seeing them conceding these goals many more.
You'd never expected to see, at the start of the season, as said, by the time we get to February, Man City's odds would have drifted to 80-1. You'd have all laughed at me if I'd suggested that. Not that I would have done.
They're playing for the FA Cup.
Yeah.
In, middle of February.
And
the FA Cup.
And to finish in that top four.
And to finish in the top four.
Do you think they can finish in that top four? I mean, Chelsea are dropping off. We've discussed that.
Yeah, I think City will finish in the top four.
You do?
Yeah, I do think they can. You ask me if they can, definitely they can. They still got quality in their team from now. And you're right. No one looks like they really want to grab that fourth spot at the moment. So they do, they still have quality to finish in that top four. I do think Man City will finish in the top four. But Mercy's right. They're playing for the FA Cup as well.
I think the game's today. I think this will be fine whether we're in the top four. If they go and get beat by Newcastle today, I don't see them finishing in the top four. I don't. Not if they get beat.
And
today.
also, they have an amazing record at home in the Premier League against Newcastle. They won 15 in a row. I mean, Newcastle's last win against City was at Main Road.
Yeah,
so it would,
yeah.
you know, if something happens there today, you're absolutely right. We'll be live to the Etihad a little bit later to begin our build-up to that one. But just pushing things forward in terms of City, guys, in terms of listen, they spent a lot of money, the most by a distance in terms of the January transfer window. But what's going to need to happen in terms of this coming summer, in terms of what happens to this team and Guardiola? I mean, it's pretty clear from what you're saying and what a lot of other people have said. This is a squad, this is a team reaching the end of its cycle. But just have a look at this. Now the players in white are the players who are out of contract. Ederson and Scott Carson, Gundogan and De Bruyne are out of contract this summer. All the others in white, like the likes of Bernardo Silva, McAtee and John Stones, out of contract next summer. When you look at the players they've got elsewhere, Mercedes, your first thought in terms of the rebuild, in terms of Haaland remaining someone who's given the service that can allow him to continue this run of extraordinary scoring for a player who doesn't tend to contribute a whole lot else, but when he gets the service, he is devastating. That looks like a big rebuild, doesn't it?
Is Stones' contract up at the end of the season?
Next summer.
Season.
Next summer.
You weren't listening, were you?
Yeah, not really. If I'm being honest, sorry.
It's fine. We love your honesty.
Sorry, Simon. Yeah, I mean, I look at that, and you got Foden, Bob, Silvino, Grealish, Doku, 5 there. Salah will get more goals than them all put together. Virtually all of them put together, he will score. You know, Foden had a breakout season last year, but he hasn't produced that this season like Salah has. I worry. I mean, Haaland, you know, this is what I'm saying about, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, because this team is an unbelievable, one of the greatest teams we've seen. They won't be dominant again. It's over. They might win the league again, but they won't dominate football like they used to. If you put up, I'd love you to put up their squad from 3 years ago with their things, and you see every position had 2 internationals in every position. Yeah. Every position had 2 internationals. You know, you got here, like, now it's not the same. It's not the same. I worry for Man City. I'm not saying they won't win the league again, but they won't be dominant. It won't be like 17 wins on the trot. Them days are long gone.
So out of contract this summer, Gundogan, Carson and De Bruyne. And, you know, one of Sir Alex Ferguson's great gifts was recognising when it was time, not necessarily to rebuild, but to refresh, bring new players in, recycle what he had. I mean, this is different what Guardiola is facing. Do you think he has the hunger? We know he signed that contract extension. Has the hunger to go again in terms of what needs to happen to a team that has dominated for so long, but as we've been discussing, is unable to any longer as things stand?
I think he's down as one of the best, so he ain't going to walk away from that. If they have the season like they're having now, why next season he's just going to walk away from it? It's a challenge, and I think Pep Guardiola, that is why he's the best. He loves these challenges. It's a rebuild. They've spent loads of money in this January window. They'll probably lose players and have to spend again in the summer. Mercy's right, they might not dominate like they will do, but they'll still win a lot of things. I think while Pep Guardiola's there, he just looks a frustrated figure at the moment. You can see they're conceding some bad goals. John Stones, I get that contract signed up, but I feel they still need to strengthen in the centre-back areas as well. They've got players that are at reasonable ages, and then they've got players so they haven't got players in between, and I think that's what they're trying to sign at the moment. They've got young players, but they need a bit of experience, like the likes of where Rodri is at the moment, that kind of age, and then you've got players that are coming towards the end of their career that have been fantastic footballers. So the likes of Bernardo Silva probably will move on in the summer. But what a servant he's been for Premier League and also Man City. It's a rebuilding at Man City, but they'll get it right because they've got Pep Guardiola. I'd be very surprised, Si, if Pep Guardiola walked away.
So do you share Mercy's thoughts that this is a side that in future seasons will be there or thereabouts in terms of the Premier League title race and Champions League football, maybe even win the Premier League again, but in terms of that season after season domination we've seen, we're unlikely to see that again for a while?
It's so difficult to say that, isn't it? And I know when you look at the side at the moment and you look at the ageing players and the players running out of contract, but I just think Pep Guardiola will see this as a challenge. I think the fact that he's obviously signed for longer. It's a challenge that he's not probably had to do. It's a completely different challenge. He's got to try and rebuild this side. And you can see that the players that they brought in, the 2 young defenders, that's clearly for the future. Marmoush, obviously for now. I still think that they needed a right back. When you look at that area, I still think that's an area that teams identify and sort of they look at that area of the pitch to try and highlight and get at them. Bringing in, I think, Nico Gonzalez was something that they needed to do with or without Rodri. So you can see that they're starting that rebuild. Pep Guardiola actually said, didn't he, that he'd have ideally done it in the summer rather than now. He's probably waited that little bit too long because I think he thought his team could go again and they clearly couldn't because of the dips in forms and the injuries. But yeah, I don't think I could rule that out. I still think that he's got the ability to go again.
I don't agree with Sue. I'm not agreeing with Sue. I can't. And I say that when Man City used to play, you put the two teams together and you'd look at that team, that's Man City, and you go, how many of this team would get into that team? And you'd probably say none. Now, when you look at it, half of the players in the top teams would get in Man City's team, and that's why they won't be as dominant. And then the other 11 that weren't playing, you would say half of them would get into that team. And it's changed now. I'd be shocked. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love it. I love when teams bounce back. That's what you want, but I just don't see them as being. And to be fair, to be that dominant again, no one's ever been that dominant. Even the great Man United team weren't that dominant as what Man City were. So, you know, it's not like I'm saying, like Clinton says, like game over with 3 minutes to go and they're 3-0 up.
But I actually agree with Sue, so I disagree with you. Thanks.
Just a final one. I mean, in terms of what they got coming up, they've got Newcastle United at home in the Premier League today. And as I mentioned, they've got that absolutely outrageous home record against Newcastle United, 15 wins out of 15. At the Etihad in the Premier League. Then comes that second leg against Real Madrid on Wednesday. And then, Clinton, it's Liverpool home, Spurs away.
Wow.
Then they've got the FA Cup fifth-round game at home to Plymouth.
Forest.
And then Nottingham Forest away. You're still confident they finish inside those Champions League spots?
Yeah, I am confident. I still do think they are. Listen, maybe ask me after at 4:45 today. I might change my mind.
I'm asking you now.
Newcastle. But no, I still think Man City have a good chance of finishing the top four. And what you got to realise, fifth might be good enough. So I still, that's what I had in the back of my head. They could finish fifth and still be in the Champions League.
But not confirmed yet.
Not confirmed,
No.
but that is a tough running. That is hard. You look at Newcastle today, Liverpool at home, which is going to be difficult if they defend like they do. Liverpool have a field day. Spurs away. You never know what kind of Tottenham's going to turn up. And also Forest away, who are flying at the moment. So it's a difficult running, but I still believe in Pep Guardiola.